to go, and it is going to be Ilios as our first map to start things off.
Diving right into it. Things are already started off, and Najini, we see him on the Pharah. So this is kind of close to what we saw from Northern Lights, actually, in their Open Division game. We see them starting out with Luft on Orisa, Dragonetti on Roadhog, and going with that 2-2-2, having Line Pro on Mercy.
And it's interesting to see both these teams mirror each other's composition this time around, as actually it's going to be the big one picking up that first blood, and it's all blue in the kill feed. Latex does get the rest up, but it's going to be quite enough. He drops extremely low. That Pharah still up in the sky, but the hook coming out of Leo, that's really good.
These long brawls definitely are just going to be back and forth affairs, I would have to say. Luft taking a little bit of damage. Samsung definitely a team to watch in this tournament, though, I would have to say, as, you know, with this meta, I think that they are a little bit empowered by this one. You can already see the Transcendence coming out from Exarat. That's quick.
Oh, he almost got booped into the well, but still managed to stay safe. However, didn't really gain much out of it. And on the other side, Dance will be lying in wait with his Transcendence soon enough. The one potential answer could be Zeker off with his respective ultimate, but it's going to be the hooks on both sides, actually, as we will see Najini pop that rocket barrage.
And that barrage is going to be so dangerous when you try to throw that out. We already saw it come out, but they get the res on Riverboat as well. So Najini not really getting much done with that in the long term as they're trying to hold on to this point.
And we'll see finally, potentially, or rather eventually, a swap in favor of the side of Northern Lights, as 41% is all Samsung managed to build up onto this first round of Ilios.
And already you can see the vision that Riverboat is granting to his team. They have the Mercy sighted as he's going to go up. Line Pro just going ahead and connecting with Najini in the sky, and Najini knocking Latex off. That's a huge opening for them to go ahead and get this retake flowing.
Especially since you cannot get a res off this time around onto that main tech. Casper finds a kill, but it's not going to be enough as two more go through from the side of Samsung. They're going to look to recapture this position. Zeker finds the big one in the background, and is that enough as he even gets the res onto Exaraft?
And that's such a big pick from Casper as well, dealing with the Mercy as the barrage comes out once again. Casper going to be able to find a kill onto Luft once more as he dies off. Najini's going to find that kill, but still Northern Light holding on to the point and getting the lead for the first time in this map.
And even though the Dragon Strike will come through, not quite sure if it's going to amount to anything. Probably going to make go ahead rather and swap potentially from that Hanzo. No, just building more space for themselves for now. But Zeker in that previous team fight was an absolute monster, making sure that Bloodthirsty support gets the team fight win, and the counter Dragon Strike does come through, but Exaraft instantly answering with that Transcendence.
A lot of duels happening. We saw the Roadhogs going at each other, the Hanzos going at each other, and this is the barrage coming down. Najini looking now for two, finds them both. Riverboat finally turns around and gets him, but is it going to be too late? They're getting the capture point, and it's flipped now, just collecting these last couple of kills so that they can finally get control of the point. 42% on the board, 81% now for Northern Lights.
And this is a big problem now here for Samsung, potentially, because if they lose one more team fight, that is probably going to be it for this particular round. On the other side, though, only the Valkyrie alongside that Bonga ready for Northern Lights. We'll see whether or not they're going to go ahead and get a pick, and it seems like Riverboat is going to find Najini in the skies.
Oh, Line Pro somehow almost gets away from that one. Latex going to find the kill as Casper set that up for his team. And now they just got to take this momentum and roll with it. Dragon Strike going straight through that barrier that goes down. And look at Casper's positioning here. Barrage goes down. He already claimed, or tried to claim one there, but is going to be answered. These barrages just so hard to pull off right now.
And it will be the cap back in favor of Northern Lights, as Leodes did eventually make his swap over to the D.Va instead, and that's definitely a very big pick potentially here. Even Luft now some desperate last swaps on their end, going onto the Winston. Dragonetti on the D.Va himself. We'll see whether or not that's going to be enough. Eyes on the big one to potentially open things up onto the point. As gotta go ahead, use that Dragon Strike overtime, kicking through. But can they find any picks? Exaraft answers with the Transcendence, keeps his team alive, and that might be enough for them, as Dragonetti is gonna go down. Mad advantage in favor of Northern Lights as they get another one. And with all of these kills, nobody on the point, it is going to be Northern Lights picking up that first round.
Line Pro and Dance really did it big in that last fight, because when you look at it, the way that they were able to open up the Dragon Strike coming out from the big one to set that fight up, set the tone for that engagement, they had a great They had a great engage. It was phenomenal. But the problem is that they didn't have the ability to actually solidify those kills, make sure that they had the momentum and were able to take the point. They just weren't able to finish off. They weren't able to finish off Latex at all. He got away, and good healing rather from Zekor and Xrath. My apologies on that one.
And now that we will be moving on to Ruins, this is where I would expect to see Casper once again on that. Widowmaker has been extremely lethal when it comes to that particular hero, but it seems like it's going to be the combo we're talking about. So triple support alongside those triple tanks on the side of Northern Lights, and on the other side, the big one, once again sticking to that Hanzo, Nagini on that Tracer. This is something, or rather, exactly what they did during the Open Division Finals.
Yeah, sometimes they like to play. Oh, they just snuck it too! Riverboat was just checking around that corner, and they're going to get that first pick. All important too on that Tracer. What a way to start this off. They're going to easily be able to control this fight from here.
And that should be a pretty big lead to start things off in favor of Northern Lights. Seems like Samsung Morningstar now caught off guard somewhat by the opposition. They're gonna stick to their guns though, seemingly not swapping just yet. Any heroes just looking to get a better angle this time around as Latex gonna set up forward, still taking a lot of damage by the Pharah. Finally contested by that D.Va, but overall, things looking still stellar for Northern Lights.
And even with this Pharah, I mean, they can just ignore the Pharah for a long time, use those projected barriers, use the shields, use the defense matrix, use the D.Va to go ahead and jump up there and kind of pester him. You can kind of see him going up there for the Mercy as well. As long as they're putting pressure on that, forcing him to kind of fall back, play a little bit more defensively, they could win the ground fight and get their healers up high on that ult charge so they can have the advantage in these fights.
And I like the fact that Leo that's just contesting the big one here, not really allowing him to do anything. I don't even know where the Dragon Strike went, as we will see the Coalescence come through, pick up a kill onto the Genie, and another clean fight coming out of Northern Lights.
And this is where we're going to have to see some kind of adaptation coming through, some way to either change the way they're actually engaging these fights and trying to win the ground war a little bit quicker, or finding some other way to try to give time to Nagini. But that's the problem. They don't have a lot of time. That's a resource they just can't afford at the moment. They're down 65% already after only 2 fights.
And they're going to be grouping up. That rally is online and ready to go. And as said, considering the fact that it's 72% already built up on the point, we need to see Samsung Morningstar Blue just start to make something happen. And it's going to have to be off of those support ultimates. We will see that Val go through. Dance, though, goes out.
And that's the thing, Leodez is able to be so lethal in situations like this. We saw Nagini try to get something sorted, but not going to find anything except for Leodez's micro missiles as he just plows him over. The bomb coming out, the D.Va bomb coming out as the Graviton follows as well. 3 kills on the board. Can they turn this around or not?
It is the Dragon Strike coming through all the way from downtown, but overtime kicking through. Transcendence is online on the point. This might be it. Samsung need to make a teamfight win happen. Their first one on Ruins, as we will see Coalescence come live out of XRF. Is it going to be enough hunting that Mercy down and gets him in the end? But Senker falls short.
Self-destruct ready for Leodez. He's just going to toss that one on up, looking for anything at this point as Latex is finding the kill onto the enemy D.Va. He's on the point. He's under pressure, under fire by Nagini in the skies. But look at all this healing coming out from Xrath.
And it is going to be in the Northern Lights winning out on Helios.
And we talked about how Northern Lights was probably the team to look at to pull out a composition like this. And lo and behold, it's the other side. It's Northern Lights that's actually pulling it out themselves. And it's Samsung and Morningstar Blue kind of having that struggle going with that 2-2-2 and not being able to really kind of find a groove, an ability to take down that really, really strong brawl comp, especially off the beginning where we saw the Tracer get taken down in a millisecond.
And I really want to praise Leodez, especially in that second round. When it comes to Ruins, he denied the big one so many times on that Hanzo. It's just been on point. But we will be moving on to a short break, and following it up, it will be Eichenwald. Don't go anywhere. What a start by Northern Lights this time around. An even more convincing win on Ilios.
Yeah, I mean, like we mentioned right before the break, Samsung Morningstar Blue was probably the team that we would have expected to bring out a composition, built for the brawl, like a 3-0-3 style, like we saw bringing in the Brigitte and everything on Ilios. But again, Northern Lights actually brought it out. No adaptation was seen on the side of Samsung. So, they just kind of fell a little bit short there. But now as we move on to Eichenwald here, the hybrid map in this series, I mean, this could possibly change a little bit up, I would have to say, because we do expect to see still, I would have to imagine, a little bit of that double sniper, perhaps not on this particular map, but certainly some point in this series, you can expect to see Northern Lights wanting to bring out Widow, wanting to bring out Hanzo, ideally together if they can swing it. So,
considering their performance on heroes for Casper, at the very least, on heroes like Widowmaker and Pharah, I would expect to see him bring out the Pharah on that first point, and then potentially going into the second one, bring out something like a Widowmaker. But we'll see soon enough as the teams seem to be ready. And starting things off, I do believe it is going to be Samsung on the defensive side here, on Eichenwald to start it all out. And when it comes to their respective compositions, as you said, little slow when it comes to adaptation or no adaptation at all. Yeah. And at this point, considering the map type changing, this is where they need to start striking back, really.
Yeah, and we talked about it as well, where, time to be able to adapt. They just didn't have much of it. We saw, it was already about 70% before they finally went in for their third fight, their last opportunity, realistically, to be able to go in and do anything, where they're finally getting their ultimates. They finally try to go into it. So, I mean, it just didn't really work out for them at all, unfortunately. But now they have time. They have other maps to get into in this series. Remember, this is all best of 5 because this is starting right off into the playoffs. But let's jump right into the action right away as we dive into the map here. We can already see that teams have kind of settled into their setup at the moment. We already see Najini once again back onto that Pharah, so still kind of going for that 2-2-2. It seems they found an identity, at least in that.
And on the other side, this is the composition
there it is.
We talked so much about. This is the comp that team such as Team GOAT in the Beat Invitational just steamrolled the opposition that second day, but they're already going to just speed boost onto the point. They want to grab a hold of this first objective as quickly as possible.
And they're going to play together as often as possible, but they have to win that ground fight quick, or else, Najini is going to be able to find kills like that onto the Lucio, and maybe wait for the fade and find the Moira, something like that. But still, it's so hard to win these because even when you take out the Lucio, there's still so much healing.
And it's just so much staying power on that objective, the big one. Dropping pretty low. Leo that's scoring those kills. Casper as well onto Dance, and slowly but surely they will grab a hold of this point. Even the snipe out of the air. Once again, coming out of Exorap, and with that final kill, the payload will start rolling. Leodet's lone baby diva on top of it, but we will see the rest of the team set up very aggressively next towards their spawn.
And we already know they can 5v6 because they just proved it. They just showed us that they can pull this kind of thing off. They're going to go forward, be very aggressive here, and Exorap doesn't mind using ultimates like that because he can generate them almost every single fight. That Coalescence will come up quick, but what an Earth Shatter there. Dragon Strike going to come out from the big one, trying to counter him out. Can he find the kills?
Gets one onto that Brigitte, and as a result, we will see the rest of his team just look to regroup, look to disengage as soon as possible. Try to keep a hold of those charges as Casper is able to build up towards that Graviton. Secker should leave soon enough as well, as Line Pro is going to go very aggressive though. Latex swing it away on that payload, and with the help of that Graviton, especially now with the rally, they're looking to secure another team fight, and an easy one at that, as Latex swings away continuously. Just able to dish out so much cleave damage, and with that final kill onto Dragon Eddy, it is going to be once again Northern Lights just steamrolling their way through Eichenwald.
And even though Riverboat, the character we see him on Brigitte here, even though that rally got nerfed a little bit, down to about 100 armor instead of the 150 that we saw before, it's still a lot of health to add onto a composition like this. And look how aggressive they're still being as they just charge forward, steamrolling Samsung Blue.
Oh, the Earth Shatter coming through shuts down quite a few, but this is going to be enough. It seems like the Genie does secure that first kill, so things are looking on the up and up, but they need to go on top of this payload. They don't want to just give up that second objective already. With so much time still remaining, they will go ahead and use that sound barrier. And with that, it is going to be a 1-for-1 trade, but the counter shatter coming out of Latex, the boop as well. Decker finding that one will potentially secure that second point. One last ditch effort coming out of the big one. It's not going to be enough. Team kill secure, and Northern Lights just relentless pressure coming out of him.
I mean, that's the thing about this composition. Even if you take someone out, they still have, you know, 2 to 3 tanks, 2 to 3 healers in that fight at any given time, even if you find a pick. So it's still a lot of lethality, a lot of staying power, even inside of that. But look at this quick engagement coming out of Samsung Blue, looking for the Graviton, but they're going to get countered right away. It's both of them coming out.
The big boom setup. It is not going to be the thing that secures the kills. However, it's very clean execution coming out of this lineup of Northern Lights, knowing their advantages, knowing that, okay, we have an ultimate advantage. We will continue to steamroll our way through that final objective, or rather towards it, as it's going to be potentially one last-ditch effort coming out of the Samsung Morningstar Blue, having that Graviton at the ready, but already Dance going out. It's not going to look good for them.
Now we see the Graviton coming out, and I'm not sure, I feel like that got eaten up, actually gobbled up by the defense matrix. They're coming out, and actually the big one will fall, as well as Dragonetti. They're cleaning this up, it seems, as Loot falls as well. Can they find the last kills, or is this going to be a stalling situation, as finally we do see Dance engaging once more with the Transcendence, keeping everybody alive. It's going to be the Dragon Strike coming through, but not finding any kills. They're just staying alive through everything.
They're just delaying the inevitable seemingly now, as we will go ahead and see that Earth Shatter come through from the side of Loof, but it's not going to secure anything. It's not going to matter anything. One final member on the point. Self-destruct coming out of Leo Death still is going to secure the round win, or rather the round completion for Northern Lights, who look unstoppable in this matchup.
And Casper, I mean, you talk about unstoppable, look no further than Casper.
Oh, yeah.
On that Zarya was high charge almost throughout that entire map, and because of that was able to get a ton of Gravitons. They were able to find value. You know, we even saw them trying to throw out a self-destruct into it as well. Like you said, it wasn't exactly what secured it, but they're still being aggressive with them. They're being very fluid with them as well, and there's always value when they throw that out. I mean, this composition, sure, you can say that there's a lot of, you know, good things to say about it in terms of what it can provide. You know, all the different pros that certainly are a lot. That list is a lot longer than the cons. You know, it's a very safe composition to run. It's very, you know, powerful. It's very in your face. It's very aggressive. Because of the fact that they have the Lucio to reposition everybody, you can even help the Brigitte out in that way to be able to be a little bit more aggressive and really kind of help the Reinhardt control. You have Zarya able to help the Reinhardt as well. So behind a guy like Latex, they're able to do so much with this composition. And you have to wonder, you know, on a team like Samsung Blue, we talked about how Nagini and Line Pro can kind of swap things up because Line Pro is just so solid at Brigitte. They do this. And it seems as though they're going to pull it out themselves. So it will be what might be a mirror comp if we see Dance swapping. But it seems as though he's going to stick to that Zenyatta at the moment.
So we'll see whether or not that will benefit them overall. And this is another thing that I was about to talk about. Even though, yes, Samsung did show their way or their willingness to play that potential comp, they always had that one constant factor of the big one on the Hanzo. So we might see that go through once again, but against this composition and this positioning actually coming out of Northern Lights, very aggressive play, but all of it seems well practiced and so far extremely well executed.
I don't think they even know. They're going to wrap around. Quick turnaround from Samsung Blue. They need to be able to find some kills here, or else they're going to get backed up into their spawn. Looped under fire. Needs to get that healing. That 2-1-3 is just not robust enough at all. Samsung Blue can't hang.
Oh man, Latex with that charge secures the kill in the end, and even though you have tools like Sonic Arrow, it seems like it wasn't quite enough in the end with that beautiful charge coming out of Latex. It will secure him 73% towards that Earth Shatter as well. So things still looking on the up and up for them as they will look to defend on that first point. Still playing aggressive, still going in. Casper secures the first kill of the fight, and it's once again all about Northern Lights.
They are handling Samsung right now. This is looking like an entirely different team. Yes, they won Open Division Grand Finals in this same exact matchup, but again, I mean, this is entirely different from what we saw just a few days ago. They are absolutely demolishing them. We see Xerath holding on to that Coalescence, waiting to pull that out. We know that he can be a sniper at times with that one.
But the Graviton coming out against Spears. O-line once again Coalescence to start out the fight. Graviton on top, and is it going to be enough so far? The charge again. Latex, his charges on that hero have been absolutely amazing to watch. Just manly plays coming out of that one. But once again, another team fight with quite a lot of resources spent to secure it. But considering the fact that it's 2 minutes and 24 seconds left, still.
I mean, we're going to see the rally coming out. Here they come out. I mean, they're going to go for the Dragon Strike right into that Graviton, more than likely. There's the aggression once again as Latex is going to open the fight up. They're spread out. Graviton comes down, but it's going to be eaten up by the Defense Matrix. Dragon Strike going to come through anyways, and it doesn't look like that's going to claim anything.
But it is a 6v4 Line Pro, as we said, being bloodthirsty on that particular hero, secures 2 for himself. Looking for more, and finally Samsung Morningstar just coming alive, but still so much time wasted by Northern Lights.
Yeah, and in a map like this, time is absolutely crucial. They finally secure it. 4:10 on the clock now after we see them swapping a little bit. Look at this roster now as we see the big one still sticking to that DPS. This is what we talked about. You know, they don't typically go for a 3-0-3. We haven't seen that yet from them. However, what they do instead is keep big one on a DPS that they think might help them counter it.
Very aggressive plays once again, just absolutely insane coming out of the Red Hat side of Northern Lights, but it's gonna be the big one. Oh, and that kill feed with an easy triple for himself, just chewing away at the opposition. Now with those Hellfire shotguns secures a quad, and with those final few kills coming through in the end, Samsung finally getting a hold of this particular map, but they need to keep the pedal to the metal.
And with that Reaper, they could potentially do just that. They need to make sure that they kind of hide him. If he's seen kind of approaching, they can block out a lot of that pressure, you know, putting the projected barriers out, putting that defense matrix out. Again, aggression as they just waterfall down from that bridge. Graviton coming down from Samsung Blue. They need to find the kills as they are getting low. They're going to be able to take them down pretty low here as Leodets goes back up. Earthshatter to come down.
Gets one, but it's not quite the targets they were looking for. The shield was still somewhat there, but the Graviton into the self-destruct once again. Is it going to be enough? No, the shield was still there on top, even though the Earthshatter will come out of the loop. It's not going to amount to anything. The Coalescence alongside that Biotic Orb is going to secure the kills instead for the side of Northern Lights.
Look at the way, you can even see when momentum shifts, because you can start to see, you know, whoever is starting to gain that momentum just shoving the opposition forward or back as they just, you know, continue just throwing it down their throats. I mean, consistent pressure is what this is about, and look at this. They're right into the spawn. We've heard already, you know, this type of meta shift being attributed to, you know, something similar to what we saw from Selfless, how it just turned the meta on its head. And this is exactly the same kind of aggression that we saw from that team back then as well.
Oh, and the Death Blossom, it'll secure that first kill here for this side of Samsung. Just looking to snowball it into a teamfight win, but Latex answering it now with the Graviton. It's gonna prompt the use of that sound barrier. Coalescence to follow through the Air Shatter.
Oh!
This should be the good setup, but Luke looks the answer. However, so far, it's still Northern Lights with the kills.
And the other thing here is that they are delaying. Nobody's even on the point, obviously, because they have to fight their way through the archway just to get there. So they're contesting this the entire way through. Leodets can jump onto the point as well, as he does just that. Graviton at the ready for a Dragonetti, but they obviously don't want to use that. 1:30 on the clock now, and they have kills to find. And 4-man Graviton Surge as that sound barrier comes out to try to help them out a little bit. Looped with a massive Earth Shatter. They're swinging away. Batter, he finds 4.
Just lays all of them on the ground, and with it secures the teamfight win, but at what cost here? Graviton, Earthshatter out of the picture, and now on the other side they will be building up an advantage soon enough, and considering the fact that they still have a lot of distance to cover, only 1 minute and 5 seconds left on the clock. This is still looking dicey potentially for Samsung.
Oh, Luft, is he gonna fall off? He does fall off. Sekor with a massive boot to start this fight. Luft falls, they lose all control, and just like that, once again, they will be backed up likely to their spawn as now the hunt is on, looking for this last member in Dragonetti as he's trying to fall back. That's gonna be a late kill, and again, just set up the opportunity for Northern Lights to just punish them, push them into this spawn. The big one very low here, does make it into the spawn, but again, look at this setup from the defense with only 30 seconds remaining.
I'm not even sure if they can make it all the way back because of this forward
Graviton ready too.
Positioning. As you said, Graviton is going to just straight up go out. 22 seconds left. Self-destruct, nice charge.
Oh!
Self-destruct kills finally live coming out of Leodets, and with that final one onto the big one as well, this is all about Northern Lights. It's their map to win.
Yeah, and the Brigitte has been sniffed out here as they're going to be able to find this late kill. He's kind of still sneaking his way around with that shield as he tries to get over there, but that's going to tick down, and Northern Lights handling their opposition so far as they take their second map win over Samsung Morningstar Blue.
And at this point, we are at match point potentially for Northern Lights. Definitely looking like a even better team, really. Their execution, their coordination, their strategies coming into both of these maps have been an absolute treat to watch.
I mean, yes, a lot could be said about that 303 Brawl comp, but even more could be said about the way that they execute with that composition, the way that they're so aggressive, the way that they're so consistent while being aggressive. It takes a lot to be able to execute properly like that. It takes a lot, especially from your shot caller, because yes, you're calling positional cues. You're calling, when to push, when to pull back, when to kind of stay, grounded, when to, check ultimates, when to use which ultimates. There's a lot to take into account, and that was something, again, that has been compared to Selfless a little bit. That's another comparison you can make, and we heard even back then how much of a hassle it could be at times to try to deal with all of those things. So certainly hats off to Northern Lights to be able to, pull all of that together and be, again, consistent with that.
But this is where Samsung needs to start turning things around. When we will be back, we will go to our fourth map. Don't go anywhere. And it's match point here. Northern Lights now one map away from getting further into the winner's bracket.
Yeah, this is, I mean, I would love to say that this has been close, but realistically, it just hasn't been. I mean, Northern Lights has been lights out throughout this series so far. Samsung MS Blue has just not found a way to deal with this composition that has come out, this brawl-style composition that has kind of been made quickly famous by GOATs, I would have to say. You know, they pulled it out in Open Division a little bit. It was seen a little bit, before that, and then right into Beat Invitational, they utilized that composition and just completely sweeps through. So it's no surprise that we're seeing it here. You know, it might have been a question of, perhaps EU might be a little different. We even saw that in the last pit season just a few months back, how NA and EU can be quite different, but does not seem to be the case here. This composition is just way too strong right now.
And they did seem to try to adapt to it, right? You had the big one come out with something like a Reaper, which looked good at the start, but still, Northern Lights were on point when it comes to, okay, pick up after those early losses when that swap happened and just make sure they came back stronger than ever, secured the team fight win time and time again.
Yeah, and as we look forward into the next set of maps and even forward into the tournament, thinking about, is this composition going to be a problem for other teams? We're going into Anubis next. If they actually somehow manage to turn this one around here, Samsung Blue will be able to take this into Route 66. But even still, I mean, these are maps where you can still pull out these types of compositions. Yes, you could potentially see some dive-style compositions, and we could indeed see double sniper. That could also be something that we wind up seeing, and it might also be a situation where we see something entirely different. But why don't we jump right into the game here, as we do have everybody live and ready to go. You can see right away we do have a Tracer from Najini. They do play this quite a bit, and defensively, Riverboat on the Junkrat, just spamming away Leodeds and Latex on Roadhog and Orisa respectively as well. They're just setting up here and trying to spam their way through to allow Casper to try to get some picks.
He's just getting damage boosted next to the rest of his team. Not really staying up on the high ground just yet, but now as the rest of the opposition looks to find their way onto the point, that Genie is gonna get there in time. However, without any other help, he will look to disengage for now, as the rest of his team still, even though he's trying to take attention away, are unable to find anything whatsoever.
And it's so difficult now because nobody's able to put pressure onto Casper up top. Najini needs to be able to pull them both to the point, but he's not able to do that as Casper finds that kill. They're going to be at an advantage here with the Tracer trying to come back from the spawn. Xwrath will get picked up. Luft's coming back into the fight, but they've just made no headway.
And just looking at those ultimates on top of the pick going through, Leodeds finding another big kill in that particular team fight will mean that the rest of Samsung will look to regroup once again. It's just been team fight win after team fight win for this lineup of Northern Lights, and as they have an ultimate economy advantage too. Nice headshots coming from Casper as well. It's gonna be all too difficult for Samsung to really get anything done.
And every time you see Luft's trying to get any kind of spacing for the rest of his squad, there's just been no way for him to get in there and get out safely. Every time he goes in, it's Leodeds and Latex all over him. Riverboat providing some of that pressure as well. Look, he comes out of spawn and gets killed right away!
Just look at this setup here coming out of the side of Northern Lights. He has the damage boost. He has the shield coming out of the Orisa. Just so much space just granted for this Widowmaker, and for a good reason. The opposition is just unable to deal with it, but now finally seeing that D.Va look to contest, potentially we will see Samsung get something done, but nope. Riverboat with that Riptire is gonna find the kill, and with it, it's just gonna be all too easy for Northern Lights.
Even the Mercy's getting involved, spamming away onto Dragon Eddy, gonna find that kill onto the Baby D.Va as well, as Najini has been spotted out on this Tracer, going for the pulse bomb, but Riverboat thankfully going to send himself into the skies and get that problem just further away from the rest of his team. They're going to res him up and potentially be able to fight back on this push.
Especially since we do have that ultimate coming out of Xwrath online, keeping the rest of his team safe now. Latex in big trouble, finally goes down to Luft, and as the self-destruct's gonna go through, finds one kill onto Casper, and eventually we'll see Samsung open up the point and eventually get it.
Yeah, they will absolutely be able to take this one. I just can't see anybody being able to come back. They still have to deal with the Mercy now as he's just kind of floating his way on down, but there you go. Control certainly in favor of Samsung Blue now as they take this one with less than a minute left. But man, that looked very one-sided for quite a while there. And another note that we actually didn't bring up yet is the fact that a lot of times on assault maps, Casper loves to bring out the Sombra. We saw it on Volskaya, and we're seeing it again here on Anubis, bringing it back out. Of course, it's kind of famous on this map, I would say, for point B at this stage, but he's going to swap right on off of it, instead favoring the Hanzo pick.
And swaps will come through on the other side too. We will see Luke find that Fire Strike kill now, goes in for the charge, gets the D-suit, and with this teamfight potential win for the side of Samsung, they could snowball it to that second point take.
And look at what their swaps were too, like when they wanted to come back into this fight, when they wanted to be aggressive, when they wanted to take this quickly and force the momentum. They just swapped right to the comp, the 303 Brawl comp. They just walk right in. They're able to get it going for themselves. They're taking kills left and right. Nagini is fragging out himself as well. Lime Pro gonna go with the rally as we see Xwrath forced to fall back. They're gonna try to get Casper's Dragon Strike in there to see if they can get anything done, but Lime Pro is gonna answer it, and I don't see any way that Samsung Blue doesn't take this point right here, right now.
Vertec almost live here for Samsung, looking to finalize those final few kills. Dance picking up two himself on that Zenyatta, and it is going to be Samsung finally making it work on Anubis.
And what a way to fire back. If you can't beat him, why not join him? There it goes, bringing that 303 out, bringing out the Brigitte, I mean, it works so fluidly together too, you know, to bring it out like that, to be able to brawl in those kind of situations, keep Dance, you know, in a safe spot as well. It just works, you know. I mean, there's no other way to put it. There's no eloquent way to put it that, you know, now that they're on defense, you have to wonder what they're going to be thinking, because they know already that Northern Lights can bring that same composition if it winds up being, you know, throughout or just for point B. And we also know that Northern Lights does like to dive. Typically, yes, they like to do like a kind of reactive dive. They like to have space creation be the name of the game, where they bring out the snipers, having Casper and Riverboat on the roster, bring out that dual sniper. But it seems as though what we might see instead is perhaps a more standard dive setup, you know, going with a 2-2-2, bringing in even a Genji to kind of create that extra, you know, dynamic of being able to aggress to the high ground, maybe onto that plateau where they think they might be set up.
And I'm curious to see whether or not the fact that nobody on Samsung is really willing to go for that Widowmaker goes into play when it comes to picking those compositions for Northern Lights, because even when it comes to Ilios, typically where you would see a Widowmaker on Ruins every time, we just saw Samsung shy away from it, even on Eichenwald, where we said, okay, we might see that go through as well. Not gonna get picked. Nobody really willing to go through with that one, but it is going to be Samsung going for that 3-0-3 composition, and this is what we expected out of them, but is it too late?
Well, they're going to go for it, but now it's going to be clashing right into the same exact comp. I mean, we're talking about straight up mirrors here, where we already know just how strong Northern Lights can be on it, just how consistent they can be with this composition. Now it's just about, can they push into a mirror and have that same effect?
Latex once again, manly plays with those chars, looking to get something done. Luke all the way in the back, away from his team, somehow still alive. Finally does go down as Latex claims that kill with the Fire Strike, and with the steamroll advantage already with the Earth Shatter, it's going to be all too easy for Northern Lights to keep up the aggression that we've seen out of them time and time again, and secure themselves the first point with 3 minutes and 21 seconds left on the clock.
You could write a dissertation about how they won that fight. I mean, beautifully executed by Northern Lights, showing that they have just that much, you know, more ability on this particular composition, running it through, isolating Luke so he didn't have anywhere to go, couldn't get protected by his team. Xwrath already engaging with his Coalescence, Graviton to follow by Casper. They're gonna be able to find the kills for sure inside of this as they take Luke out of the equation once again.
The charges, man. The charges with Casper. Gonna get the D-suit, the counter grab. Can it secure any kills? We don't have that ultimate coming out of a sector just yet, but as we say that, it is finally live, and with a kill still in favor of Northern Lights. This might be a very fast second point take as well. Leo that's securing another kill, even though Earth Shatter does go through. Luft unable to find anything off of it.
Casper ready with another Graviton. It follows right after the D-Mech. They find a bunch of kills back to back. Gonna find Nagini on the Lucio as well, taking out Lime Pro, or rather waiting for Lime Pro to come around that corner as he takes a little bit of damage. He's not even going to try to contest it. 6:16 on the clock right now. Samsung Blue looked like they were in a good spot for this map, but maybe not so much now.
Most definitely not so much now, considering the time difference. And now that we'll be swapping over sides, I'm curious to see what Samsung is going to do. Are they going to stick to the same composition, since their previous choices really didn't work out until the very end? They had only 1 minute left, I believe, before they got that first point. And now that they're going to swap back to that attacking side once again, do you default to this composition, to this 3-0-3 comp again, where you know your opponents just seem to play better at it? Or do you try to go for something you're more familiar with?
It's a tough call. I mean, certainly we know that the best, kind of their best display against it so far has been running a 2-1-3, running Big One primarily on Reaper, but, just with that DPS there in general, that's probably been the best way to combat it for them so far. So I wouldn't be surprised if they stick with what they have right now, with Lime Pro making a swap and keeping Big One on some kind of DPS to perhaps go along with this. But it seems like they're really kind of struggling to figure out exactly how they want to approach this, because they're making some last-minute swaps as they're going instead over to more of a dive style composition, where Casper now is going to potentially have a little bit more of a threat in his face, but maybe not as he finds the first kill onto Big One.
Never mind. Casper, once again, his forward position alongside the rest of his team is going to prompt a resurrect out of Lime Pro. What a double. Just unstoppable, seemingly right now, unable to find any resistance from the other side. Latex even getting another one onto Lime Pro, and considering the fact that they only have 3 minutes, they'd really need to make every second count here for Samsung.
And Riverboat working his way around the side too, getting some necessary help from the Mercy as Zekor floated his way on over to make sure that he got his healing and that damage boost. But look at Casper sitting up on top of this arch here as he's going to be just raining down death from above. And I don't know, is this Zenyatta going to be able to even make it over to the fight? Finally backed off. Luke is going to allow his Zenyatta to come back into the fight, but they still can't push yet because they got to wait for him to rotate.
And that already took 30 seconds away from Samsung's attack, as they're gonna look to re-engage once again. But Luke already taken out of the equation. It will be all about this Northern Lights lineup. But as I say that, finally Nagini Alpha to the side gets 1 kill onto Casper, who's been an absolute monster of a threat. And finally Samsung will try to make something happen, and with Latex eventually going down, they might just get the point.
Oh, I don't know though, because Northern Lights is still in this one. The res onto Exorath is going to be huge here if he can put some damage onto the Big One, but he's not going to find it. Instead, Big One will find the kill. Casper trying to get his way back over to the point. We see the vision coming out from the Emperor site, and Nagini with a big stick will take down Latex, and they will take the point just after.
An event. It took them a while, but they finally get it. Casper, last second hero, plays on the point, as we will see one tick already go through, second one soon enough. And with 1 minute 35 seconds right now, they will be getting a hold of that first objective, but only 2 minutes to get a hold of the fourth one here.
Well, we have to remember last time, the way that they got this started was they were able to find a quick pick onto Riverboat, if I'm not mistaken. And we see Casper at the moment on that Sombra, so they have a little bit of time to set up. Ideally for them, they don't lose Riverboat early, so it's going to be tough to get in there. They're sticking with this dive style composition, though, not making that swap like they did the last time, and Riptire might just get drained out if they can find the kill. Primal Rage comes out, but he's going to be low from that Riptire.
Well, they did start setting up for that composition to go through, because Nagini went onto the Lucio, the Big One, probably only staying on that particular hero because he had the Dragon Strike at the ready, but Casper making just absolute easy work of the opposition means that it will be pushed away, and I want to see whether or not the Big One will commit to that Hanzo or if he's going to swap. Considering the fact that it's only 1 minute left, Zarya in the last minute, not too ideal.
And you have to wonder how they would make a swap like that if they wanted to do it, because, there's not as much that they could do to the situation as the Sombra is almost, I mean, getting kind of close to getting ready with that EMP, and they're going to have no shields at that stage. Now we're going to see Dance going forward. They have the Transcendence going. Casper's going to deny that health pack as they're setting up 86% towards the EMP. That could easily sway this fight if they let him get that up as he's looking for a heal, getting forced back. And he will get killed off as well, so no EMP for now.
That's a big pick potentially here for Samsung as they need to secure the point right here, right now. Dance secures a second kill for himself. Rest of the defensive side is going to come back from spawn. The EMP did go through. Are the kills going to happen as well, though, as Dragonetti did get desuited. And finally, Northern Lights getting control of this point, and more importantly, no ticks achieved by Samsung.
And now they're down to 10 seconds, and there's kills still coming out for Northern Lights. Here you're going to see that aggression once more come out as a self-destruct flows right over the top. They're not going to find a kill with it, but certainly this overtime will tick down. Nobody will be anywhere near this point. And it's 3 points achieved, 0% though towards that fourth, and Northern Lights have over 6 minutes to beat it.
It's gotta be a Herculean task, but Samsung are not out of it just yet. They need to make a win happen right here, right now, or at the very least, get the draw if they are to stay in this particular series. Else, it will be knocked into the losers bracket. Definitely not a position you want to be in right from the get-go. And Northern Lights still, they will most likely pick that 3-0-3 composition once again. Hey, if it ain't broke, why fix it, right?
Well, what we saw in Open Division, and we have seen a slight adjustment from that point. You know, there was a lot of emphasis on space creation for Riverboat specifically. We saw him playing, you know, some Hanzo and everything, and when Casper was playing Widow, he was doing well, but, you know, he swapped over to Pharah, and it was just really kind of, again, emphasizing Riverboat, enabling him as often as possible, and he really did a lot with that. Now they've, like I said, kind of made that adjustment, and now they've put a lot of that emphasis, a lot of that enabling into Casper, especially on the Widow in this particular situation. Even when he's playing Zarya in that 3-0-3, he's the one constantly making these plays. And, you know, this team setting, this dynamic that they have seems to be working between Riverboat and Casper, where they're just able to make clutch plays between them.
And even Leodeads, of course, alongside Latex, those tanks have been on point when it comes to knowing when to charge in, knowing when to peel or go in as the Diva 2 for Leodeads, as they will look to go with a dive this time around. So Casper on that Tracer, Riverboat on that Genji will look for a few picks, but Dragonetti was on point with that first blood.
This is such a strange composition to start off with, but they're so effective with it so far. They're running triple DPS. Double support, and they have that single tank of Luft. He's just trying to kind of control the field, allow Dance to be protected by this barrier, but really just kind of staying apart for the most part so that they can just kind of spread the pressure around, create a lot of different lanes for Northern Lights to be looking at, to be worrying about in these situations.
And Casper, now on that Widowmaker, is going to potentially take out his opponent in the big one, as he will find Live Pro instead. 2 kills already on the board for Northern Lights, even more secured eventually. And Latex does go down, but it's not going to amount to anything. Overall, Northern Lights all over this point, already at 2 ticks, looking to get a third and going to that last point objective. All they need is 33%.
And we will see a swap, or rather a multitude of swaps coming out actually for the defense, as they're now in desperation mode, if there ever was such a thing. And we will see Leodeads getting into position, putting pressure onto Luft and Dragonetti, forcing him back a little bit, as they're just waiting for their opportunity now to go ahead and execute the strategy that they're going to come up with, which I imagine is going to be trying to find Dance in the back corner and try to take him down quickly before he gets that Transcendence up.
Especially since the Blade will soon be online for Riverboat, potentially looking for an angle. Of course, on the other side, Dragonetti looking to answer with that Riptire. Could really stop them dead in their tracks, but the Blade does come live, and it gets a double kill on both of the supports. And with it, this could very well be it. Northern Lights looking to secure the win, and the win for the series at that.
3-0. Complete domination displayed here by Northern Lights as they take the round. and take the series with it. Riverboat, we talked about him, how, you know, when they do enable him, he does a lot with that. You know, give him space and he will find kills like this. He will be so efficient, be so good at, you know, coupling with his main tank, being able to execute these dives fluidly. And I've really liked what I've seen so far. Casper had a couple of